And then you can see there. Got you all projected on the big screen as well. They said they wouldn't wanted to see it. And let's see if you can get to see party going on. Can you see?
Yes, we can, Guru Maharaj. Jai Radhisha.
Okay, so yeah, you just made it in time for Aarti. Okay, and we got good volume here, although I still get my little external speaker. And yes, Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bhaktavatar, I think you need to go on mute. And Madhavadaita, you got to mute your computer or whatever you're looking at. And anyone else who's out there, also, well, Gaur Roy and Alfia. Okay, wonderful. Well, it's a first, and we have a good showing of devotees. 38 participants, including families, and then we have a few participants over here, and so we're waiting to hear what's the story.
Well, Guru Maharaj, we have questions from some devotees, but while we have everyone here, if anyone else has questions, if you could kindly just put them on the chat. We'll just give your name and where you're from on the chat so we can add you to the list.
That's it's loud enough, right? We can hear. Shambhai ran over to get my little external speaker. Although this is already pretty loud, and we're doing pretty good. Someone say something, or I guess Marshall say something.
Yeah, we have a list of questions for you, Guru Maharaj. When you're ready, then I'll just give the name of the devotee, and they can unmute themselves and just ask the question.
Okay, you can hear me okay?
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, well that's one way of doing it. The other is that they write it down, and then one person asks. But let's try like that.
Guru Maharaj, your volume just went a little down when you...
Did it? Okay, maybe I'll...
we can't hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, the Taran Krishna Prabhu has a question.
Okay, well, just about questions. It would be good if devotees ask, I don't know, ask sort of significant questions, questions that are really based on what they know rather than what they don't know. In other words, because you've read Srila Prabhupada's books and you've studied them thoroughly, and you have something that we want to go deeper into or understand. Uh, you don't need to tell you what's in Prabhupada's books. You just have to look it up and read it yourself, and that's really your part of the responsibility. And then my part is to sort of elucidate on that and explain. We did that with the Russian-speaking devotees. That was great. Dowji sort of connected us also with English-speaking Russian devotees who are on online, and yeah, and we made a division between sort of younger devotees and more senior devotees. Hopefully, with the more senior devotees, we'll be able to address other things. I don't know what I want to talk to about with the younger devotees. We'll see. We'll see what the questions are actually like. But very often, my experience with questions is, part of it has got to do with psychological and emotional therapy, which now I've retired, so I'm not dealing with that stuff anymore, and or people's emotional ups and downs, and then there's sort of really very, very basic things about why I'm not practicing Krishna consciousness, and rather than how I am practicing Krishna consciousness. So I really like to just someone's making a lot of noise. I'd really like to just concentrate on how we're practicing Krishna consciousness, not necessarily dealing with the problems to getting there, but what we do when we get there. And that will mean, as I say, something a little more substantial based on what a real study of Srila Prabhupada's books brings us to. And so with that introduction, what was the question? Who was it, Tarun?
Yes, Tarun Krishna Prabhu. Could you unmute yourself, please?
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now.
Yeah.
Please, Samamala obeisances, Guru Maharaj, all glories to you and to Srila Prabhupada. Nice to see you here from England. My question is, dealing with preaching, going out, talking to people about a farm project, veganism, then one topic that comes up at the moment with people in terms of environmentalism is that they think the population of the earth now is much greater than it used to be in the past. And so different solutions they bring up according to that. But according to what I understand, in the past, there were many more people on the planet. According to the Vedas, like Ugrasen had 10 quadrillion bodyguards, according to the Krishna book. So how do we explain this to them, or how do we tackle their solutions to environmentalism with a Vedic solution.
You're looking for a farm. Why you want to get into what's happening at Dwarka and getting into how many quadrillion soldiers someone has? Who's going to believe this?
Uh-huh.
It's irrelevant. You're trying to get donations, not to convince people of something that's inconceivable. They can't understand it. We don't understand it. We just accept it.
Mm-hmm.
But so what? What's the population got to do with developing a farm or a farm project? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You stay focused on what the purpose is. Our purpose is to realize Srila Prabhupada's goals and give facilities for cow protection, living as independent as possible from the world around us. And these things, raising our children in a different atmosphere, and being able to chant Hare Krishna nicely. So those are the positive things, isn't it? Why get into these things? Population.
Okay.
Anything else in regards to that?
Well, the other thing with people, they say they have this vegan argument, like if I meet them and I'm raising donations and I say we have this farm and we're protecting cows, and some of them say, I don't, I'm vegan, I think it's wrong to take any milk from cows and to deal with them at all, so I'm not going to give because I think the whole thing is wrong. And
So
that's quite...
Move on. It's just like when you bump into the Christians on the street, you don't waste any time with them. You just go on to the next person. Well, you're not going to convince them. Just move on to the next person. Okay, I guess I better keep on moving. Yeah, they're not convinced, and even if you've managed to convince, well, why are you going to spend time doing that? That still doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to donate. But your business isn't to convince people. Your business is to find people who are sympathetic, and that's what you need to find, not people that you need to convince. And there are sympathetic people there. I mean, the vegan argument is it can go on and on and on. The bottom line is cows were created for a purpose. And they don't believe in God. And doesn't believe in God. Doesn't believe in there's a creation. And if they're atheists, then it's hopeless argument. Otherwise, if at least they believe in God, then understand that cows were created for a purpose. And cows were not created to wander around freely in the forest and fend for themselves. So, but that's not what you want to get into. That's not what fundraising is about.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Srimati from Australia.
Yeah, it must be really, late. It's 8 hours. That means it's 4 o'clock in the morning over there.
It is Guru Maharaj.
At least you're up early.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj, I had a question that in the Mahabharata.
Every day.
Sorry?
Maybe you should have the conference every day.
Oh, that sounds fantastic, Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj, we see in the Mahabharata that even though Dronacharya, he knew that Drustajumna took birth to kill him, he still taught him the martial arts. And then we see also Kshatriyas, they're not so scared of death. But then we see in the case of Kamsa, he was very scared of dying, but then he also had some Shastric knowledge that he preached to Devaki and Vasudeva. So I was wondering, why was Kamsa so scared of his death?
Well, I know a lot of devotees who preach about not being this body, and then when something happens to them, it's like the end of the world. What to speak of when something happens to their, I don't know, family members or so on, and why does Krishna make this happen? So sometimes it's a little shocking how devotees react to adverse situations that Krishna puts them in. So why, even if you have knowledge, but if it's not realized, then when the time comes to put it into practice, then may have some difficulty, and that's why Krishna puts devotees in situations of difficulties, so that they actually come to grips with the reality of things, not just talk philosophy. So, yeah, those demons, they knew, Hiranyakashipu knew about karma, and you're not this body, and he preached all that to his mother, but still he was a demon. That's what makes him a demon. Still he was inimical along with all that knowledge. So same there. Kamsa was also Ravana, let's speak of Ravana. So these are all, in one sense, very empowered in certain ways, but they're very attached to their sense gratification. That's what makes them a demon. So even if they have their knowledge, and that's what makes devotees also. What is it? They're also attached to their Krishna conscious sense gratification, or the Krishna conscious-ized sense gratification. So yeah, it's there. Real Krishna conscious perspective of life really manifests as devotees become quite advanced in Krishna consciousness by Dvitiya Abhinivesha. That's and to the degree that devotees practice Krishna consciousness, to that degree they become spiritualized. I was looking at a verse over here. You can't. Oh, this is all third canto. Yes, this is a great verse from 11th canto. It says, when a diseased eye is treated with medicinal ointment, it gradually recovers its power to see. Similarly, as a conscious living entity cleanses himself of material contamination by hearing and chanting the pious narration of my glories, he regains his ability to see me, the absolute truth, in my subtle spiritual form. Here there's a lot in the Sanskrit as usual. It says yata yata pari rimjate so, and then tata tata pashyati vastu sukshman. So it's expressing a proportion of things, that to the degree that, just like when you regain your vision, to the degree that your vision becomes healthy, to that degree you get to see reality. Similarly, to the degree that one becomes actually Krishna conscious, in the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam is nicely applied. To that degree, then they're able to realize and be situated in real transcendental knowledge, and that it's not just something I read in the book, something that I know, which is valuable, but yet at the same time, it's not me. Is that okay? Okay. And who's next?
Dart Prabhu from the Ukraine.
Who's from the Ukraine?
Siddharth Prabhu. Is he there?
Okay. Next person, if someone's.
Okay. Deva Prashta Prabhu.
Dave Presta's right here.
He has a question.
Are you also on the internet? Oh. Okay, you have to speak loudly then.
Very much basis is much. I heard you expressing recently how you are especially interested in training your disciples who are showing a good capacity for being trained. My question is, what's the quickest way for a disciple who may have been around for years but not necessarily deeply absorbed in study? How can that disciple become qualified to be worthy of training?
I don't think it was training. That's what I've been sort of doing to one degree or another all the time. This was more to do with speaking with older devotees and about how to encourage them more in going deeper into Krishna consciousness. And I do that. I usually I invite the devotees to come, and then we discuss. Here in Hungary, the condition is you have to speak English. So Hungarians who finally learned English, then, well, at least that's one qualification. And then the older devotees who have share same. This is not really training. This is about share similar level of just that study of Srila Prabhupada's books and deeper interest in science of devotional service. So, yeah, I when I went to the UK, also did. But the principle of education is people need to. You can't take fifth graders and stick them into university just because they want to be there. So if someone isn't in the habit of study, or they don't have that particular qualification, then the whole point is defeated. So just like here, we've got online over here. We have devotees who've been practicing Krishna consciousness for 35, 40 years, and the whole mix in between. So it's not the ideal educational forum. And what ends up happening is we end up talking to the lowest common denominator. And actually, my point is, you don't need me for that. There are many devotees on this conference who could be answering all these questions. I'm not needed. So I'd rather prefer to deal with other issues that are really about going into Krishna consciousness, not about how am I going to become Krishna conscious. Ultimately, that's our business. So Lord Chaitanya, generally for the masses, he just chanted Hare Krishna. Then with his devotees in general, then he would have a certain type of satsang or discussion. And then with Sivarama Swami and Ramananda Roy, then that was a different thing. So Sajatya, according to devotees' level of interest and involvement and realization in Krishna consciousness, then it's good to sometimes pitch things to a different level. That's also sort of Bhagavatam class. Bhagavatam class is a very general presentation, and which is very good and purifying, and it benefits everybody. On the other hand, it doesn't necessarily address all the needs of all the devotees. So that's one of the reasons why we have our college to systematically train devotees. Why Prabhupada wanted devotees to do Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, so that they actually, that it's an educational institution. And that's why we're here to learn, to be educated. We're here to do service, but Prabhupada wanted that it's just we do more than service. Our main service, actually, our primary service, is chanting Hare Krishna and hearing about Krishna. That's our main business, and all the other things are to facilitate them. So, having a goshala, having deity worship. The Manjari sent me this interesting quote, which is in this Amritavani, he says, chanting is the best form of Krishna Seva. In other words, chanting is our primary service. So, occasionally you can sacrifice chanting, at least in quality, because there's some bhuchu going on or some emergency. But if that becomes life, the Krishna consciousness is not going to work. If other sadhanas help us develop our chanting, then they deserve to be called sadhana. In other words, something sadhana if they help us in our chanting. Then he says, otherwise, they're simply impediments on the path of chanting. So if these other things, if Krishna Valley, if deity worship, I'm just going to quote what he's saying, if deity worship, if everything else, if it becomes an impediment, if it doesn't help chanting, he says, then it's an impediment. Congregational chanting of Krishna's holy name is the king of sadhanas. So now congregational chanting, which is when we're all chanting together. It is the only infallible sadhana capable of bringing us to perfection. Everyone forget about this idea that simply by serving ISKCON, you're going to go back to Godhead. It says here, congregational chanting of Krishna's holy name, it is the only infallible sadhana capable of bringing us to perfection. You go back to Godhead by the quality of your japa, not by whatever other things you're doing. That's valuable, but then he says, Sri Mahaprabhu did not teach deity worship in his Shikshashtakam. He simply taught us to chant. Nothing about deity worship, nothing about cooking, nothing about guest houses, nothing about goshalas, nothing about farms or sustainability. From beginning to end, Shikshashtakam is about chanting. And that's our business. And there's a problem. There is a problem in devotees' minds that they think that you can replace chanting with other things. but in the bottom line, won't. It just, what will happen is we'll develop and we'll get adhikar for another birth. We already had other births before. Devotees may know that they didn't sort of, not starting from scratch. So that process can continue. This is Harinama Eva Kevalam. It says, Nastiva, Nastiva, Nastiva. There's nothing else. So it's all on chanting. And very nice quote. So we need to take that really seriously into heart. Chanting is something you don't just get through. It's something that's sort of, I finish my rounds, get them out of the way so I can get on with service. This is the service. And of course, other things are important, but you can't sacrifice your spiritual life into other things. So we need to be able to adjust. And to the degree, yata, as it's stated there, to the degree that our chanting about Krishna develops the quality of that chanting, and you know what's going on when you chant, then to that degree we're making spiritual advancement. There's no secret about how we're doing. It becomes obvious to how we chant. If after 20 years we're falling asleep, inconceivable, or mind is still wandering and you can't just hear the holy name, at least as a minimum, then we need to focus on that. So Nastiva, this is our business. And in order to help chanting, you have to hear, so that when you chant, then you don't have to ask questions as to what are you meant supposed to think about, because if you're reading Bhagavatam and hearing about Krishna, then you'll know what to think about, and you will think it. So no, there's I don't know what are Prabhupada's books meant to be. What are they for? Doesn't want to stay in that full screen mode. Doesn't want to stay there. Okay. Yeah. So, and for chanting, okay. For chanting, let me just see what about chanting. That was yesterday. I'm just I guess. Oh, here it is. Okay. And chanting Shikshashtakam. I assume everyone knows it. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu starts off Chaitudarpana Marjana. He just introduces what are actually the real benefits of chanting. And then he talks about the second verses. Etadrishi tava kripa bhagwan mamapi hridayvam vidrisham ihajanina anuraga. But I don't have any anurag. Anurag is actually advanced prema, stage of prema, but here it's used in a more conventional sense. So, idisham ihajani anuragam. It says, it says, oh, let me just say this. Yeah. Tatrapita niyamita smarane. Just to ask this question, what are you supposed to think about? Lord Chaitanya says, there are no hard and fast rules for remembering. Whatever Krishna, at least that's what you start says. But although Krishna has given us this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he says, I'm so unfortunate that I commit offenses while chanting Durdayavam. And therefore I do not achieve taste. So if there's no attachment, so what does Bhagavatam say? What is the verse? Then it's the heart is hard.
Yadashmasaram vidayambatedam.
Yes. Tashasaram vidayambatedam matimamana harinamujaya. So, yes, if you don't have anurag, it's offenses. Everyone came to Krishna consciousness, you started chanting Hare Krishna, you were feeling so much bliss, wasn't it? What happened? It stopped. Why did it stop? Because we started to commit offenses, especially to Vaishnavas. And to the holy name. And so then anurag, nanuraga, then we lose the taste. And then when you lose the taste, then it's really a struggle. So what's the formula to be able to chant properly? You can very easily chant the holy name. You have to really cultivate that humility. Otherwise, then it says, one can very easily chant, Prabhupada says, the holy name of the Lord. Kirtaniya Sadahari. One will be able to chant nicely. So it comes like that. And then, once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives that, then he explains, yes. And then Bhagavad Bhakti Rahoiti Kitvayi. And then devotees really have to be, are you willing to put everything aside? Madana, my wealth, Najanam, my birth. Usually devotees aren't so hung up on that. Nasundari, my family. Actually, and then what about this? Kavitam Jagadisha Kamayi. He says, well, I do not desire these things. Material wealth, materialistic followers, a beautiful wife, or beautiful activities. All I want is unmotivated devotional service. So the definition of pure devotional service. And then, if that's there, in other words, if one chants humbly, one knows what chanting is about, what he's meant to achieve, what Chaitanya is talking about, what is the sadhana and what is the sadhya, what are the results of that chanting, and then what the particular mood. Then from there on in, this mood of separation. Oh my Lord, O Krishna, son of Maharaj Nanda, I'm your eternal servant, but because of my own fruitive acts, I have fallen into this horrible ocean of nations. Now please be causelessly merciful to me, consider me a particle of dust at your lotus feet. So we're in the material world. Are we comfortable? Getting a good getting a good job, get a good situation. I got some good friends. People are respecting. Yeah, he's got a good position in society, and you know, got good plans for family and everything like that. It's hard. It's hard to live with that, and at the same time, that this is all I want. Consider me a particle of dust at your lotus feet. Which means that all we really want is service to Krishna. It can't be both ways. The Bible says it very nicely. God says, He says, I'm a jealous God. I don't think the translation is very good, but more it means ekantaba. It's just, that's what it means. Just to Krishna. And not to someone else or for someone else. It's unique, and everything else and everybody else is just helping that. But you know, Thakur told family, you have to spread Krishna consciousness or go. So everything else is just in relationship to that, and if it helps, and to actually feel. Now I'm in a very horrible place, and I don't want to be in this horrible material situation, but we don't like it here in the material world. Okay, we have business to preach Krishna consciousness, but we shouldn't get comfortable. But Chaitanya didn't stay long. He stayed for 48 days. Years, I mean. Krishna left. Everyone leaves. Prabhupada left, Acharyas leave. And then it's described in the Bhagavatam. The devotees should do their business and then leave. They shouldn't stay any longer than needed in the material world. Just hang around here saying, yeah, I'd like to preach here forever. If Krishna wants you to preach, he'll let you know. But we should, our businesses, we want to do what we want. Krishna's mercy, we want Krishna's service. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes on. Then he talks about Nayanam Galadashudharaya, Varanam Gadadarudhaya Gira, Purakar Nichitam Vapu Kada Tava Namagrahane Bhavishati. Kim Bhavishati. He says, Nayanam Galadashudharaya. He says, one that streams of tears falling down my eyes. Prabhupada says, my dear Lord, when will my eyes be beautified by filling with tears that constantly glide down as I chant your holy name? Nayanam Galadashudharaya, Vadanam Gadgadarudhaya Gira. Are we all here? Vadanam Gadgadarudhaya Gira. So when my voice is faltering and choked up, my words are choked up, Pulaka Nichitam, Bapu, my whole bodily hairs are standing on end. Tavanama Grahani Bhavishati. Devotees pray like that. That's what we pray for. We pray for actually those transcendental symptoms. When will they manifest in our body? That's the benefit of chanting. That's the result of chanting. All of these verses from Ainanda Tanuja and Nainam Galadashvadaraya, Yugaitam Nimushena, the second half of Shikshashtakam, it's all about service and separation, chanting and separation, according to different levels of devotees' advancement in Krishna consciousness. The secret is all in chanting. As it was stated in that Amrita Vani, that that's all Lord Chaitanya talks about. It's all that he wrote. He only talked about chanting Hare Krishna. to talk about anything else. So ultimately, that's, and what did Lord Chaitanya do? Prabhupada said he didn't start any temples. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just chanted Hare Krishna and heard about Krishna. So that's our business, and that's what we really need to remember and concentrate on and keep our focus on. And preaching is great, but it's only great when you're chanting Hare Krishna and tears flow down your eyes and your hair stands on end. Then it's great, because then you've got something to show for your preaching. But if all you're going to do is tell everyone how great something is that you don't have, then what's preaching? So ultimately, preaching is becoming Krishna conscious, and that's the real preaching. And that's what people want to see. People ultimately want to see that when they read. They want to see that there's a real result of that. So it's real serious business, and chanting Hare Krishna or perfection of chanting Hare Krishna. Anyway, it's good. I won't get into what I was going to talk about, but it's our focus, and devotees need to, in terms of their japa, in terms of kirtan. Okay, we have time for a couple more questions. I took a long time, and here don't forget we're an hour later, and tomorrow we got a busy day. Tomorrow and day after I have a busy day.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I have a question from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. I was just reading a verse on the glorifying Sri Yamuna Devi. And if it's okay, it was a question from the commentary. If I could just read that short paragraph. It says here that Yamuna, the holiest of rivers, is the ornament of Sri Vrindavan Dham. As the daughter of Viveshwan, the sun god, she has inherited the power to illuminate the world. And as the sister of Yamaraj, the king of death, she is also the dispenser of perfect justice. So just from there, we know that Yamaraj dispenses justice, but would you be able to tell us how Yamuna Devi dispenses perfect justice?
Yamuna Devi is not really the daughter of Vishwan. Yamuna comes from the spiritual world. And that there's a partial expansion of Yamuna, who appears as Vivishwan's daughter, is just sort of part of the package. It's actually that Yamuna that Lord Balaram chastised, not the original spiritual Yamuna Devi, who is sort of beyond being an illusion or of the type of sort that pastime showed. So, justice, well, the justice is that if you deserve it, she gives you Krishna prema, and if you don't get it. So if you bathe in her waters, then she'll give you love for Krishna, and so much devotion and bhakti. But if not, then we don't get it. Otherwise, it's not a very not a very important thing in terms of dispensing justice, because devotees aren't really subject to any kind of justice. Krishna is the one who oversees devotees' situation, and if it's required, punishment and so on. But our vision of Jamuna Devi is not, is more the original Jamuna Devi, who is also an expansion of Vishaka Devi, Gopi, Vishaka Gopi. So they're rather giving. They're giving bhakti, but the justice is that they give bhakti to devotees according to their adhikar, according to your qualification. Then they will give you that level of devotional service. So we shouldn't expect more than what our qualification is, but we have to develop our qualification, and that qualification comes in different ways. Service gives us qualification, hearing and chanting, and of course, as you become more advanced, you become more qualified for more devotional service. Sivarama Swami says that just by once bathing in Radhakund, one attains love of God. I'm sure some of you have bathed in Radhakund. So it's there, love of God is there, but it's given in a form that's proportional to your level of advancement, just like this other verse I read. Yata yatatma priyamrinjate so mat punya gata shavanadi dhanai tata tata pasyati vastu shukshmam chakshu yatai vanjana sampayuktam. So somehow or another, our business is to move forward and advance in Krishna consciousness. And
Thank you very much. Javat Basi Prabhu from Scotland. He's there. Adoksha Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is, which resources or facilities do you recommend to help us make the transition from youth to old age? And is it, if that's relevant to our sadhana? If it's not relevant, I'm sorry for the question.
I didn't get the first part because I don't think you're speaking right into the microphone.
My question is, what resources do you recommend that we consult for making the journey from youth to old age?
Resources?
Like what shastra or which leelas? Which leelas?
From youth to old age. But Krishna consciousness is not a matter of going from youth to old age. It depends on how advanced you are. Leelas are not anything to do with old age. What's age have to do with Sukadeva Goswami? He wasn't old. He was 16 years old. So there's not an issue of age. It's that we advance, and as we advance forward, we become qualified. Every qualification, you become qualified for that level of devotional service, and then you go. Haro Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, and so on. Nishta. Nishta really means beginning of devotional service. So very often devotees come up with all of these anartha-nivritti issues or things in relationship to anarthas. That's why I would like to at least begin from the point of Nishta, from the point of Krishna consciousness, of bhakti. Shradarati bhakti ranukramisya. Bhakti starts there. Bhakti starts at the stage of Nishta, actually, because faith is then firm and practices are firm, and then so this thing of getting over anarthas is, yeah, it's a struggle, and sometimes you have to struggle, but other devotees are very capable of helping. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says there's a lot of books for Kanishta-adhikaris, a lot of books for Uttama-adhikaris, but very few books for Madhyama-adhikaris. And that Madhyama-adhikari is the important category. He's going from Nishta to a Sakti. So it's not age that qualifies you for Krishna's Leela, it's your Krishna consciousness.
Thank you very much.
But if we're aged, we should be also qualified for Krishna consciousness. We shouldn't think that it's for someone else, it's for some other time. But everything has its own development. But age does mean that I should be at certain stage of Krishna consciousness. It's like in school. If you're 45 years old and you're still in grade school, something's wrong. So no, at 45 years old, I should be in university. If I'm doing my PhD or something, or I've got my, I don't know, like right enough, I've got my third PhD, and that's what you're doing when you're in old age. Okay. Well, this was good, and I think maybe we'll just set. Well, I'm looking for another time. 2 weeks from now, Sagad in Huson Hafrikan Media today. Well, we could try 2 weeks from now. In theory, it's a travel day for me. And this was, we were meeting at, when were we meeting? We were meeting at 7:30, right?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. 6:30 our time, 7:30 yours.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just put that in. Okay, let's try the 26th. And then, yeah, if Varshana, you check with me, that's what Dowji does every sort of 2 days before, then he checks whether it's on or not.
Okay.
Okay, thank you all very much. And then all the best. It's great to see devotees from got all over Europe, the UK, of course, Australia, and some from Russia, and then there's Lalita Saki from Radha, and then yeah, we have a lot of devotees. Dowji's there, so it was good. Scotland. It's a good mix. And are there more? Since this was sort of a first try, I assume that there was more on the list I never really got to see in detail.
Yeah. We have Chaitanya Priya from Leamington Spa. Her and John are on the audio. They don't have video and microphone.
I see those. I see everybody.
Yeah.
And yeah. But no, I'm saying, is there anybody else who isn't here?
Well, yeah, there's quite a few
Uh-huh.
not here.
Okay. Anyway, it's good. Zoom is good like this. And I don't know why, but I had you all projected on this huge big screen out there. At least Radhishyam could see you. And then I'm seeing you here, I'm seeing you there. Okay. So, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.